Okay, welcome back to the second episode of this RPG tier list. The rate we've been going at with this one, I don't know that we're going to get it all done and signed off in this either. Been out, gone for a walk, same day as the other one, but a bit of a change of pace, so let's have a look. Yes, we're not making very good progress, but then there's a lot to talk about, so I think maybe the original intended format of this being a single solitary episode, I think this is rapidly turning into its own series, which rather behooves me to see if I can't grab some footage from somewhere of some of these games, but we will see. Let's spin the wheel and see what it brings us. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Disco Elysium. Did they include it, just out of interest, in this? They did. Okay, so they include Disco Elysium in this. The reason I say that is that Disco Elysium is one of the games on here that feels least like an RPG to me. I think that Disco Elysium has got a lot in common with almost point and click adventures. I know that there's no question it's got attributes, there's no question that there is progression as you go through the game on those attributes, and that affects your progress, and it's not a skill-based game, so it meets the definition. But the feel of Disco Elysium is that it exists more in the point and click world than it does in the RPG world. But it meets the criterion, so we'll include it here. We're going to talk in here about games that have good writing, and games that have average writing or very lousy writing. Disco Elysium has at its best some of the best writing in any video game. It is an absolute standout in this regard. If you're not familiar with the plot of Disco Elysium, you play a drug-addled detective who is suffering from amnesia after a particularly heavy drug session, and it's about you piecing together your life at the same time as you are solving a murder in a sort of vaguely dystopian alternate reality with its own history. Disco Elysium, some of the writing there, the depictions and descriptions of drug use are probably the best that's ever been explored in a video game, at least that I'm aware of. I think that's done exceptionally well. But more than that, like describing the thought processes of being a detective and how you think about it, some of that is just wonderful. Basically, 70% of the dialogue in the game is the introspections of the protagonist, of Harry, who, well, I shouldn't say that, of the protagonist. So, yeah, it's very much, it allows you to build your own thing, and there's quite a lot of variance in how you can build them as a personality. So your Harry might not, have to keep calling him that now, so that your protagonist may not be anything like mine. The writing can be breathtakingly brilliant. I'm going to come here for a little bit of flack. The writing is also generally quite indulgent, and when it's aiming for the stars, and sometimes it hits. Some of the other stuff, I'm not really sure on the world building. Sometimes, like, there's a lot of things in the world that are explained as happening off camera, and I'm not really sure that that's to Disco Elysium's great benefit. You know, when it talks about the world and the politics, not necessarily the politics that are on screen, but the politics that are off screen. I don't think it always reaches the heady height. The best parts of it are the bits in the protagonist's own head. I think that's unquestionable. So writing absolutely fantastic, and worked. It implemented to work quite well as a game, not just like a book. I think it gains something from the gamification of that writing. As a game, Disco Elysium can be a bit lame. A lot of the time, you've got these, like the real puzzle with the game is picking the right clothing to wear to maximise your attributes for whatever the choice is in question, which is not really a puzzle. The combat is basically handled by exactly the same means. That's where the gameplay is. This is what I mean by it feeling sometimes like a point-and-click adventure. Disco Elysium almost feels like something you explore rather than you play. I didn't, similarly with the way that the dialogue is written, most of the time the solution is just to go through every dialogue option. There's very rarely, if at all, moments, at least that I can recall, where you where you either engineer a clever or need dexterous solution to a problem. You just go through the menu until you're done. So really, it's a beautifully, brilliant, not beautifully, it's perhaps the wrong word, but like a brilliantly written bad game. What does that mean in terms of the chart? Well, I mean, we've already got, and I think the precedent's kind of set here. Final Fantasy X is there. Disco Elysium has got a lot less game than Final Fantasy X, but it's got a lot better writing, like a lot better. I mean, like the writing of Disco Elysium would be not just top tier, but I think it would be knocking. It really is superb. It's just the fact that there isn't much game to go around, which is kind of the problem. It's got some very good voice acting. I must admit, it sounds good as well. All of which is lending itself to this sort of upper mid, like lower grade tier, and that's what I'm going to put it. Next on our list, Valkyria Chronicles, the first game. Valkyria Chronicles is it's an odd duck of a game. Valkyria does, I was saying something on Reddit the other day about this, that it's like it does some things brilliantly, many things okay, and a lot of things very badly. Valkyria Chronicles is maybe if we get the image up, this will sort of aid us. This is a strategic JRPG. I'm going to put it just in C for now, just so I can let go of my cursor. And I'll decide where exactly to put it. Maybe lower, maybe higher. It's a strategic JRPG, basically set in like an alternate World War II. You're in a country that is a sort of cross between Switzerland, Norway, and Belgium. That's like, and you get invaded by the Empire, like Germany, led by Adolf Hitler, but basically you have to take up all your all the people around you who have been invaded, have to form a militia and defeat the invading forces. Valkyria looks gorgeous, really nice looking. I mean, it's getting on a bit now, but like the art direction's all like this, like cell shaded sort of. It's like 3D anime, but it's like it does it in such a way that it like looks 2D, and it's like it looks nice. I'll die on the hill of Valkyria, particularly the first one. It's very stylized. The writing is not good. the writing is you're dealing with some quite the Second World War, and quite serious subject matters there, and like the writing team for Valkyria are just out of the depth, and at times it gets a bit offensive. Like if you ask me, like how some of the comparisons and so on. It has possibly the worst UI of any game ever. The way things are divided up into chapters, and it like Valkyria Chronicles, like you wouldn't think that this would matter, but it is obsessed with saying, "Would you like to proceed?" And like you don't have any other choice. It's either yes or stop playing. So why it's asking you that? It's got this weird sort of storybook writing kind of way, which just feels like it sort of literally displays its story on pages of sequences, and it's just like this weird decision that like doesn't sit well, and it like for ages I was like massively underleveled in Valkyria, and I was like, Jesus, does it really have to be this hard? And it turns out that you can just level up. It's just because of the way it's framed, it would never occur to you. You have to sort of go out of the menu to get in. So lots of problems there. And then you've got like the combat. It's an interesting one. It's one of these half and half systems where when you select a character, you can sort of move around the map in real time, and everybody else is stationary but can shoot at you. And then when you find the place you want to stop, you hit the stop key, and then you do like a turn-based shot there. And that part of it, at least the first time you play any of the maps, is absolutely brilliant. I really, really like it. I think it's one of the best. I could make it better. There are changes that I would make, but it's one of the best combat systems in an RPG, because you you basically make all these strategic plans, and then you go to enact them, but you might encounter enemies that you didn't expect to be there, and you have to rapidly adjust your tactics on the fly. And it's really, really good. It's actually like the part of it, I'm trying to find a better word than like a little bit scary at times. You're like where you realise that you're only ever like one enemy away from your entire plan crumbling apart, and now suddenly you've got people who should have been rescued by other people. Those other people are never going to get there. And there is this really like, you know, sort of behind enemy lines thing. Not every map is great like that. Some of the maps are a bit dire. I think some of the stealth ones particularly can really eat a dick. But yeah, like it Valkyria for me is one of the ones, the games that I would, I really want people who are designing RPGs to play. Because it gets a lot really right, but it does, as I say, also get a lot wrong. Where am I putting it? It can't go in B tier. It's not on the level with any of these games. Like as I say, the writing is an embarrassment, and like many of the features are pretty poor. It's basically dragged along by that combat system. The other thing with the combat system, just to say, like if I was going to do Valkyria, I think they've already got about 5 of these out. So if I was doing, you know, Valkyria 10 or whatever we're on, I would randomise where enemies appear. Not all enemies, but some enemies. I would add randomisation each time you load the map, so that you have to react each time to whatever's there. Yeah, that's how I would do it. But yeah, I completed it despite its flaws, which makes it more than Fell Seal, and it's just got more going on than Fable. I really like. I enjoyed it at the time, but it's like, yeah, time is not being terribly kind to it. Why are all these? It's the D is the tier of names beginning with F. Yeah, I'm gonna put it in C. I think that's my feelings with Valkyria. Yes. This. Right. I don't think... There is a question here, and it is a very fair question. Is Dirge of Cerberus... Cerberus? Is that what it was? Cerberus. Is it an RPG? It might be a tactical shooter with heavy RPG elements. Maybe it isn't fair to have it here. I just wanted to... I guess maybe I'm being a little bit naughty here, in that I just kind of wanted to remind everybody just how bad that game is. Like it's a monstrously rubbish game. It's, you know, to be honest, when we're talking about the worst games to come out of large studios, that and Quiet Man, which I think is also Square Enix now I think about it, just like totally flawed, badly conceived. In fact, come to think of it, that's Square Enix as well. Really, really dreadful. And part of this you see, people ask me, I'm not going to get bogged down on just how bad that game is. If you fancy a laugh, like, go and get hold of a copy and play it. It's just absolutely atrocious. And people, like, you know, sometimes like say, like, why don't you play the remakes to or the Rebirth or whatever to this? And it's like, the reason that I don't want to is because the people who are responsible for writing that are the same people who were responsible for writing this. And this got that so utterly wrong. And the same with, like, you know, like, I didn't include it here because, well, multiple reasons, but you know, Crisis Core or something like Advent Children. It's like, once you get over the, oh, it's, you know, it's cool. It's like, oh, it's a 3Dism of that. It's like, it just, you can't understand why this is good from, like, just from a narrative point of view, from what you're taking from the narrative. You cannot understand why this is good and then make that. You have to fundamentally misunderstand why people enjoyed this and what storytelling devices it uses in order to make this. And I don't want my experience of this being polluted by people who did writing for games like this. I mean, thankfully, you know, like Dirge, it's got like it's so bad that you'll put it from your mind fairly quickly. But yeah, is it an RPG? Is it fair to have it here? Just trying to think, like it's just such a, like, the gameplay and the writing are so bad. It's like I keep, like, trying to think of it to myself, which is worse, and then I think more about the game, and I can't decide because it's all so bad. Let me stop thinking about this. Hopefully something nice will come up. Something on the upper end. No, don't you fucking right, okay, yeah. You get what you wish for. Wizardry 8. The game that I did a failed Let's Play for because it got on my wick too much. There it is. But I mean, again, like Wizardry 8 was horrendous. I mean, if you watch the playthrough that I did, I shouldn't necessarily need to explain the horrible leveling up system, the horrific parser system, enemies level scaling, like, brutally but also pointlessly. You know, what a bad game. But it's not as bad as this. Wizardry 8, you know, I mean, I rage quit that, it was so bad. But it's not as bad as this. And the thing is as well that, like, again, like, Wizardry 8 was made with, you know, the fact that they were advertising a local PC company in the game. You know, like, it didn't have, it weren't being made by Megabook Studio. What's your excuse, Square Enix? You know. Right. Come on. Give me some quality. Give me something on the upper end. Which one is this? The first one. So we mentioned in the last episode that there are the silver age of computer role-playing games. I argued that they were killed off by Morrowind, and it dragging things to console and making things walking simulator. Somebody else on, I don't know if it's on RPG Codex or something like one of those sites, somebody made the argument that it was in fact killed off by the first Knights of the Old Republic game, because that was the point where games started, or RPGs started to be trying to funnel you down cinematic what's the word, like cinematic kind of narratives, cinematic prearranged narratives, rather than letting you explore things in the order of your choice, and the sort of, again, the consolification of it. Now that person would probably have balked, I have to assume, at every JRPG that's on this list, because they all do that, and they do that more than Knights of the Old Republic did. If you don't know Knights of the Old Republic, it's, God, I think it was about a 2005 game, something like that, 2004 maybe, and it was Star Wars meets Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 edition. Same as, well, yeah, basically what Pathfinder uses. And I went into that game, to be fair, with very, very low expectations. I didn't think that D&D and Star Wars were necessarily a match made in heaven. I remember I'd been about 24 when I first played it, I think, something like that. And I played it straight for 20 hours. I just didn't leave my computer. I remember it being like 9-10 in the morning the next day, and just like feeling quite weak. I've been that into it. Like, I felt nauseous because I just hadn't eaten. It was really, really, really good. I've coined a phrase with my friends. It's a slightly baity one, which some of you may hate. That there are 3 good Star Wars films: A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Knights of the Old Republic. It gets the feel of those first 2 Star Wars movies, A New Hope and Empire. It gets that spot on. It's the characters are big. The pressures, it never loses sight of its plot. It's got some really nice touches. It was, especially at the time, and Knights of the Old Republic unfortunately is very much a game of its time. But at the time, it was this blend of like Western style D&D mechanics with like a sort of Eastern style, like emotional character driven narrative. You know, the characters in Knights of the Old Republic feel stuff. They are emotional people with, like, or say people, like emotional characters with opinions and reactions. Some really big characters as well. And the D&D-ism of it, it's a little bit sort of light. It's not like, I would say it is less than what's on that page, definitely less than Pathfinder, less than Baldur's Gate. You're not talking super tactical. You can throw the occasional bit of tactics in it, but you're mostly just rocking up with your numbers and going like toe to toe, and an awful lot of it is like, the difference is how often you heal. So not super involved, but just really good writing, really good sound, some lovely basic but nice mini games, and yeah, I just really I liked it. Um, the question of where to put it. Firstly, the question of whether it's under Star Wars or if it's under Knights. If you see this before I do, scream at the screen, and hopefully I will. There we go. Hear you in the past. The thing with Knights of the Old Republic, when I've done like some of these retro games, and obviously I've banged on about playing Fallout and like Baldur's Gate games, like something that I introduced substandard Michael to, at least Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, I should say. And like I had every confidence that those games would, you could go and you could play those. You can come from 2025, hop back 25 years, and those games, they'll have you back because of the way that they were structured and the way they arranged their graphics and presentation. But Knights of the Old Republic, I don't know. it was a game of its time. The graphics in Knights of the Old Republic were pretty good back in the day, but I played it again about 15 years ago, about 10 years ago, and it was like, oh, I'm not sure about this. And I know I'm using the example of the graphics, but it kind of extends to a lot of other elements of it. Whether or not that holds up as well, I don't know. You see, now we're starting to get things on the list. I don't know. I don't know with some of these. I enjoyed it so much the first time. I enjoyed Final Fantasy X so much the first time, and on the second time, maybe not. I'm going to put it in A tier for now, but reserve the right to change minds on that one. That's a complicated one, nuanced. What's next? Fire Emblem, Path of Radiance. I have been playing Fire Emblem Path of Radiance this week. I have got, I think I'm about 10 hours in or something. Fire Emblem Path of Radiance is a Fire Emblem game on the GameCube. To be honest with you, it's perhaps, it's an RPG, and I've played it more than some other RPGs on this list. Whether or not it's fair to put it here, I'm in two minds. Let me, right, squint everyone, because Radiant Dawn, I think that's it. Path of Radiance. Sorry, my eyes are shot to shit and it's all very small. It's just right now, like Fire Emblem has some other entries. I haven't yet played any of the ones on the 3DS, which is like Awakening and Fates, is it? What, and some of those are meant to be interesting experiences. And I had a craving to play some Fire Emblem this week, so I dug this out, and it. I don't really know what it's bringing to the table. Like I can sort of play it and I'm there, but all the time I spend playing it, I'm just sort of thinking of it just doesn't seem to do anything particularly spectacularly. Like of the games that are up there, I would say the one it's reminding me most of, and this confirms to me that I'm going to pop it in E tier, is Diablo, because I'm just kind of going through the motions with it. I don't feel invested with the characters. I don't feel like I'm struggling with the combat, or that I'm having to think about the combat more than at a very basic level. I think maybe possibly tactical RPG combat. When I think back to Final Fantasy VII, and that is as I say, a very easy game. Maybe we're just more aware of these sort of mechanics, and like these older RPGs. I mean, then again, Final Fantasy VIII was that. Yeah, it's not. There's lots of ways that these things could grab me. It hasn't grabbed me. I think I'm approaching the end of that, to be honest. But not so bad that it gets thrown up against the dross in tier F. Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. I mean, if you haven't played this Baldur's Gate 1 and Baldur's Gate 2 and Baldur's Gate 3, I suppose, if you want to include it in the same series, it feels more like a franchise at that point. These were games for the PlayStation 2. There's two of them. Now I'm saying Dark Alliance. There was two of them. I think the one I played was the first one. But anyway, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, as you will know if you've watched this channel, are strategic and tactical role-playing games for the PC. The Dark Alliance games were sort of like top-down, like melee. I don't really know what you call them. It's a very lazy genre. It's the same genre as Fallout Brotherhood of Steel. They would be top-down shooters if they were top-down, and if you had guns, which I suppose you get bows and things. If you're playing it as a single-player experience, it's pretty dreadful. But I guess it's not good, but I mean you can just play it to while away the time. If you're playing it with a friend, it gets more amusing, but then we're not really here to judge that. Is it not here? Did I add this? Oh right, okay. If we don't have it, then we will not be able to. So okay. So it's not in Baldur's Gate. So Dark Alliance. Ah, yeah, there we go. Okay, yeah. These games down here in F really like. This is the point for me, like where I'm not enjoying it, really. Like I don't consider. I wouldn't recommend to anybody anything in E or lower. It's the E, F, G is basically just how much it annoyed me. And it didn't annoy me much, it's just very unambitious, like, plodding, artless release. Just a thing for money. Yeah. Not much to say about that, really. Hello. Grandia. for I get a bit confused with the editions and versions of Grandia. I'm talking about the one for the Sega Saturn. It was the Sega Saturn's answer to there we go, to, I would say, to Final Fantasy 6.5. Final Fantasy 7 was a step up. Grandia came in and was sort of like a more of a middle ground. I'm not quite sure which of them came out first. I would like to think it would have been Grandia. But they were both, as I recall, quite early releases for the PlayStation and the Saturn. Yeah, Grandia sort of sitting a little bit less. It was a less grand in spectacle sort of version of Final Fantasy VII. The plot and the writing wasn't as good. It was a bit more. It was a bit closer in sort of scope and like the three-dimensionality of characters to Final Fantasy VI. Something a bit more limited, but it had more of a kind of Chrono Trigger, like leveling up and synergy system, as I recall. It was okay. I think that one of the problems that Grandia had for me with the story is that it kind of felt a bit episodic. Like it rather than it being like one movie, if that's the right analogy, it felt like a series of episodes of a TV show. That these things were kind of segregated, and there wasn't necessarily a sense of a breathing world so much as something, you know, that you were in one world one week and then another world the next. It also there was the way the leveling up system went. I recall playing it and really enjoying the progression, and then suddenly I got to a point where the progression seemed to stop. Like we were unlocking new abilities, and then all of a sudden we weren't unlocking new abilities, and instead our stats, like attributes, were going up, but I didn't have any sort of like anything on the horizon to look forward to, and I kind of stopped not playing long after. The other thing with Grandia that was, I put it here. It was quite good. I completed all these games. I didn't complete Grandia. It's going to have to be a D. Yeah, it also has the green-haired girl in question on the cover. I remember distinctly that you sort of take a tumble down like a cliff, or like a, you know, sort of like they do in Fellowship of the Ring, go tumbling down this cliff and get to the end, and she says the immortal line, "I hit my fanny." And I was most confused about this because it turns out that's an Americanism for smacking your backside, which I was not aware of as a British person, and was rather confused at what she'd done. Let's just remove that and go on to the next one. Yeah, we've been lucky to escape the Persona games so far. I'm gonna kind of show my hand with this, I'm afraid. I've played 3 Persona games, as you will have seen on that screen. 3, 4, and 5. 4 for me is, without any question, the best of the bunch. I think that put it there because it kind of depends how like do I. I might actually put it there. Yeah. Do you know? Well, we'll do Persona 4. Why Persona is 4 is the best. Persona 3. So the Persona games are iterative games, and it's kind of unusual for FIFA. Like the Final Fantasy games are not iterative. They are separate and distinct. They're like their own thing each time. They have their own systems. Whereas like Persona is closer to something like FIFA, where like most of the core, or whatever FIFA's called these days, all the core things are the same. You've got like a hell of a lot of similarity in the plot, the characters, and the mechanics, and it's really small sort of changes between them. What Persona 4 has going for it, let's just approach it in isolation rather than getting too bogged down with the others. I think it's a very well paced game. I think that there's a really nice sort of speed to Persona 4 that ticks over. It's another one of these games, like, I mean, all the Persona games have this to them, really. They have these big anime characters / caricatures that are, you know, just good fun. They're just likable, and it's just interesting to see what happens with them. I think the combat in Persona 4 particularly is quite punchy and swift. It's got a big. It's not necessarily terribly complex, but as we can see from Final Fantasy VII up top, you don't need to be terribly complex all the time. What matters more is sort of style and feel, and I think Persona 4 gets that feel. There are like the downsides with Persona 4. Sometimes the writing is just laughably bad, and it's one of these things. I mean, there's one bit in particular which is just like what should be a tragic moment. Like, just I was in absolute tears, laughing at it. I don't know how much of that is a stylistic thing rather than a quality thing, but it still makes it quite hard to take it seriously. And yet, on the other hand, like in a sort of simplistic sort of like trash TV kind of way, like Persona knows how to keep it ticking. You know, it's got it keeps its characters coming in at a nice sort of pace. It can be funny, and you know, while it's not, it doesn't emotionally impact you in the way that, like, you know, Final Fantasy Knights of the Old Republic, or, you know, Final Fantasy VII Knights of the Old Republic, Final Fantasy X, or Disco Elysium in its own way might. It has the fun factor. It's also got, and this is something that I could quite happily do my own separate tier maker list to. If we're talking about fantastic soundtracks, Persona 4 is just wonderful. I remember like one time, it was a sunny day and you're going about town in the game, and the background music was a piece of music called Signs of Love. Have a listen to that from like the Persona 4 soundtrack, and I just stopped playing. I was just like, I just want to listen to this more. It's just great. Really, really good. Um, Final, like, sort of booting on Persona 4, if I'm going to put one in. Again, the sort of thing. The writing is the main thing that's keeping it out of A. But the other thing that, like, frustrates me a little is you've got this really good system where your personas, these cards that you get for your sort of powers, as it were, are influenced by your relationships with other people around town who reflect their relevant tarot card symbols. I mean, if you haven't played it, just go and play it. It's hard to explain. But to those who have played it, the thing that really frustrates me with it is the attribute boosts that you can get for your personas in terms of within the dungeons themselves. You get like attribute boost which you can apply to your personas, and to me it just undermines the daytime bit, because like if you can just there should be an incentive to move through the personas and use the higher strength ones. But because you've got these attribute boost cards, like, you can just... I mean, I think I had, in the end game, like, one of the ones I had was, like, Angel, who was, like, my third persona. Because I was just able to boost up her persona to, like, max level. So like, that was where all my damage was. And I just feel like it would have been better if that hadn't been the case. But it's a good, solid game, really good, and my favourite of the bunch. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, Dragon Age. Don't know why we're clapping. I mean, you saw my frustrations with this when I did the Let's Play of that. It's which one is it? I think this one. Let's put it here for now. Dragon Age has got some really nice tonal stuff. It's got a decent world. It's got some some really nicely done dungeons. Some nice writing within those dungeons. Sort of, big characters who you're moving through the game with. And then you just, this Mamorpaga driven system with like completely arbitrary numbers that mean nothing. A UI that is just deliberately meaningless. And when you get to level 7 or something, you're better off not leveling at all ever again in an RPG. What a strange thing it is. Is it as bad as Dark Alliance or Fire Emblem Path of Radiance? No, it's not. But this makes me feel... You see, this here is where the interesting stuff lies, because, like, I now feel... I'm not sure if Grandia is in the right to... Whoa. Like, Dragon Age, Fallout, Fable, and Felseal. Like, yeah. And then when you look up and you see Valkyria... I didn't finish Grandia, though. I did finish the others. Oh, I feel sorry for Grandir, but feeling sorry is not enough. Yeah, it belongs where it belongs. What else have we got? You've seen, obviously, I have done my my playthrough of Baldur's Gate 2. Well, I mean, I've completed Baldur's Gate 2 on many, many occasions, which is the first sign that it is... Oh, tell me I've not dropped it. Oh, for fuck's sake. When I do this, it's so annoying, because it can now be anywhere, and I have to pick it up. Oh, God. Right. Right, that is absolutely infuriating. Why? Why does it work like this? Although it does give me an excuse to look through this and see several games that I'm like, ooh, I should play that. Illusion of Gaia. So that's Baldur's Gate 1. Oh my God. This must be infuriating to watch, because, like, you will be able to see it, and I just cannot. I'm like in a sea of colour here. Oh. Come on. This is like kind of the thing I hate about this, and why I keep like sort of dropping them in at the top. I didn't actually... Oh, sorry, no, I actually did. It got there. No, apologies. Yeah. Baldur's Gate 2. Do you like Baldur's Gate 1 or Baldur's Gate 2 more is a discussion point. I like Baldur's Gate 2. I really like the sense of power. I like the quadratic mages of it. I know that that's, you know, death by rock, paper, scissors in some respects to a lot of people, but I think that's really good. I think it's got huge, great, like, enemy fights that are really much more meaningful than anything in the first game. I love how the high level D&D abilities and how they're implemented. I don't think there's a game on that has ever been made. I mean, obviously this is D&D as much as it is. Well, I'd say it's D&D. I'd say it's 65% D&D, 35% Baldur's Gate and how it implements it. I don't think there's been a game that's ever come close to giving you incentives to move up the levels like Baldur's Gate 2's spell system does. The fact that you can get those spells early, have them used against you, and just know that you've got, like, knowing you've got time stop coming, and like what time stop's going to mean for you. I mean, like, time stop it's not the most powerful spell, but it's like the sort of the sense of it, the sense of power. I think it's wonderful. I really like the writing and tone. Again, big characters who you're more involved with than the first game. I think, I mean, it's to me, it's the... Well, there's that and Fallout 2 doing very different things that are the jewels in the twin jewels in the crown of the Silver Age of computer role-playing games. Are there problems with it? Yeah, some of the quests are not as good as others. The once you get out of Spellhold, there's a sequence there that's less fun. I always dread the Ustnatha bits. It's also got this weird obsession that like so many Western RPGs have with like an early level cap, and like you could blame some of that on D&D, but like also just like could it not have been arranged a slightly different way? Because like I tend to hit level cap quite a long time before the end game, so I don't know. Maybe that's just me. This is absolute royalty, and it's in the S tier. It's far and above something like Knights of the Old Republic. It is, yeah. Baldur's Gate 2, absolute all time. Final Fantasy VI. Final Fantasy VI was the last Final Fantasy game on the SNES. It is going to be confusingly entitled... Oh god, what is it? Has it got the new case? Maybe it's got the new case. Brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to have to... okay, so we've got the new one. Final Fantasy 3, it was in the... it released in the States. I don't think this ever got a European release for whatever reason. I don't recall ever seeing it or any of the other Final Fantasies in a... We just got like... the European versions were known as PAL versions, PAL. I don't know off the top of my head what that stands for. But it was a different shape console to the Famicom and the American Super Nintendo, and I just don't think we ever saw that. Like, I could be wrong. I certainly, would have had an eye out for something like that, but yeah, never heard of it. For a lot of people, Final Fantasy VI is their favourite Final Fantasy. Back in the day, there was a lot of animosity between, well, I would have to argue, from Final Fantasy VI fans to Final Fantasy VII fans back on the internet and various forums, flame wars and so on, in what would have been sort of, I guess you could describe them as like proto-Reddit communities. And I think the reason that a lot of like these Final Fantasy VI fans were really cheesed off is that like Final Fantasy VII was the one where the Final Fantasies like exploded into popular consciousness. But a lot of people who were playing these games on the SNES will tell you that like where like Final Fantasy VI was like a big step up. We're talking like the same console, the same like graphical power. It's not relying on a new generation. It just did a lot more with the power at its disposal than Final Fantasy V did. I don't know Final Fantasy V very well at all. I have played it, but not long enough to make this list. I didn't stop playing for any particular reason. It was just a sort of thing of one night I'll try it, and then I don't know. I just didn't keep trying it. I think when you're going back and you're playing these older games, there is a point, and it would have been an older game to me at the time. You do have to sort of push a little bit over a line, and I just didn't with Final Fantasy V. I did with Final Fantasy VI. It's very good. It is it's faster paced than Final Fantasy VII. the characters are nowhere near as three-dimensional. Like, we're not bouncing between their, past, present, and future in the same way that we do in Final Fantasy VII. It's nothing like as intricate a plot. But for some people, that's preferable. Like I say, it's faster paced. You're spending a lot less time in long cutscenes. I say cutscenes, but like sort of, bits where you're listening to story exposition. I like the Final Fantasy VII story exposition. I think it earns its keep. But I can also see how other people might want something a bit more, with more of an eye on the clock. It's got some really good level design. It's harder than Final Fantasy VII. It doesn't mind killing you as much as Seven is much more gentle in that regard. And a lot of the soundtrack, like when I think about like music like the Temple of the Ancients in Final Fantasy VII is taken from a piece in Final Fantasy VI. There is quite a degree of overlap there. Final Fantasy VII's got like something like 10 times the music, like, so it's not. There's some overlap, but not that much. People back in the day used to say that Cloud was basically just a second-hand lock, and I'm really not sure where that came from, but yeah. But you can go back and play Final Fantasy VI, and it has aged well. If you are going to go back and play it, please be aware that they later went and added a load of sort of PlayStation 1 era cutscenes to it on certain versions that were for obvious reasons not in the SNES version, which could never dream of handling that. I didn't play that version. I really enjoyed the ones without like some other dude putting in what he thinks the characters should look like. I think you can just treat it and use your own imagination, but that's at your discretion. Is it an S tier game? No, I don't think it's. There's a reason why Final Fantasy VII is like has got the sort of that beloved status. That the fact that they're still trying to milk that for cash, whereas Final Fantasy VI, not so much. And some of that is to do with exposure and its place in the cultural zeitgeist, but there's also like it was doing more things than Final Fantasy VI does, but it's right up there. As I say, I'd rate it over 10. Very much so. Let's go. So this is an odd one. Neverwinter Nights. Is this fair? Neverwinter Nights was a D&D, not isometric, very much not isometric. It was like a Divinity Original Sin style, or Baldur's Gate 3 style, like a 3D thing, rotate the camera game that gave you the Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 edition rule set, let you have a party of 4, and it gave you a quest that you went and did. Neverwinter Nights and its sequel, which is what we're talking about here, they were like 50% game, 50% toolkit. The idea with Neverwinter Nights was that you could build your own campaigns with it. and it had a few professionally released campaigns, and a lot of people made their own campaigns. It wasn't, in many ways, it was perhaps a victim of the internet speeds of the time, which probably didn't lend itself that well to that sort of thing. I can't review it as a toolkit. I have to review this as a game. The base game was not that fun. The writing was pretty mediocre at best. There was some, like, they did some weird things after Baldur's Gate 2 that were just like, oh, why are you doing that? Like, what everyone levels up at the same time, which is just a bad idea in a party-based system. Resting basically became kneeling down for like 2 seconds, and it also just sort of graphically, like Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, because of their isometric style, they're quite pretty in that sense. Whereas Neverwinter Nights 2 was just like, it was like the camera was clipping through everything. It was hard to see what was going on. Yeah, and it just, I mean, maybe I'm getting a bit mixed up with the first one there, to be fair, but it just, yeah, apparently some of the expansion packs were more interesting. There was one I seem to recall that was to do with a caravan. You were running a caravan of some sort. That is Neverwinter Nights 1. Is Neverwinter Nights 2 not on here? Did I include it at the bottom? I did not. So I'm going to fudge this slightly, if you don't mind, and we will dump Neverwinter Nights. Yeah, it kind of was that. I mean, as a base game, it really wasn't much cop, to be honest. Definitely the bottom end of its generation. But again, slightly unfair one, that, because it was doing other things. If you're here, you probably watched me do a Let's Play of it. Fallout 1, one of the most influential games of all time, created a now part of one of the most successful gaming franchises of all time. It was, where is it working? Where have you gone, boy? Yeah, it's just great. I mean, I absolutely love it. I adore it, as anybody who has seen any of my Let's Play will know, and I recommend it to anyone. And I think that, like, if you're making an RPG and you haven't played Fallout 1, ideally Fallout 1 and 2, but certainly Fallout 1, then your credentials for designing an RPG are reduced. Like, Fallout 1 should be absolutely, like, integral. Like, when it's doing things right, Fallout 1 is just unstoppable. Why am I not putting it in S tier? Well, Fallout 1 isn't as balanced as it could be. There's definitely... It's a game with seams. It's also, as the playthrough will have shown, pretty short. And I advocate for a shorter game, but, like, you know, Fallout, it's not an epic length. I favour its sequel. Guess where that's going to be placed? I think it paved the way for things rather than necessarily being the absolute. But then again, I mean, I'm going to leave it in A tier for now, but to be honest with you, if it's in A tier, I don't know, Knights of the Old Republic. I need to go back and play that and form a new opinion on it. Maybe Knights is too high. But then again, Knights is better than anything else on this row. Yeah, I think that's about right. Let's remove that. What else have we got? Everything's quite high up these last... Oh, well, I suppose Neverwinter Nights was particularly high up. So... Baldur's Gate 3. When Baldur's Gate 3 was in development, I didn't want to know. I'd been very heavily burned by other companies buying up licenses for games that I previously liked. Mentioned Fallout, obviously. You could argue Final Fantasy, albeit via a merger. And just generally, there's a really horrible, like, the franchisation of art or art entertainment is just so disappointing. Like, have your own ideas, tell your own story. As soon as I heard that Larian were trying to get Baldur's Gate 3, I was like, right, so they haven't got ideas of their own, so they're just going to sell it on a license. And I was not best pleased and didn't want anything to do with it. In probably the month or two before the game came out, I caught a little bit of wind of it, and I had a look, and I was like, okay, well, maybe this could be okay. And eventually, a friend had got it, a viewer on this channel had got it, and we went through the character creation system. Just because you can do like sort of character creation online without the game. And I was like, I'm gonna have to get this, and I had to get a new SSD for my computer in order to I had to literally upscope my computer to play this damn game. And I played it, and I've got to say, like, Larian have gone in really hard on this. They've done fantastic work with it. It's not. I'm sorry. It's still a franchise rather than a sequel. It's not a sequel for me. It's part of a franchise, but it's very good, and it's handled with a lot of love and care. I think the way that they've made, there's like just lots of like little things in it that you can do that are related to your background. You know, there's a real sense that the choice you made at character creation matters. It's got this Fallout thing going on where there's lots of different ways to resolve situations. It's the voice acting is intimidating in its scale and scope, and like I would say, when we talk about our favourite bits in the Baldur's Gate games, my favourite bits of any of those games are in Baldur's Gate 3. I think it has some moments that are fantastic, completely tonally in keeping with the first two games. That's the other thing they get right, is like the tone of it is spot on. And it is for that reason that I will be placing Baldur's Gate 3 in my B tier. Because it gets a lot of things wrong. It's good. When it's good, it's so good. It's so good. But it gets a lot of things wrong. the first thing, so Baldur's Gate 3 aims to bring tabletop to life, and it does so by firstly trying to make a world where like you can like do lots of different things, the sort of freedom of tabletop, and by literally throwing in the dice rolls, and like, you know, if you want to try and do something, roll a dice. The first thing with this is that like when you're trying to make everything really expansive, like tabletop, as somebody who has played Dungeons and Dragons and run campaigns, tabletop RPGs are by their nature expansive. That is their greatest strength. Whereas computer games, their greatest strength is providing a structured and fair challenge which a player can overcome by their skill or strategy, tactics, you know, skill or acumen, I guess. When you are going to decide whether somebody succeeds or fails based on a dice roll, it's not real. That's not a good idea. It's not too bad an idea. I mean, it's an idea that can be hit and miss, to be honest. But like, it's an idea that is better in tabletop because, you know, most of the time when you're doing this, you're the one rolling the dice. But, you know, if you're saying that to the computer, you know, if you're playing tabletop with me and I say that, you know, this is a skill of 14 skill check, and you roll 2, and I've just decided, the same person setting the challenge is deciding whether I pass or fail, based on like no input from myself. I'm not sure about that. The other thing stacked on with the dice roll, like if you like, one of the things with tabletop, if you've never played tabletop RPGs, it very much depends on your group, but like I'd encourage anyone to give it a shot. But one of the things that maybe isn't as obvious with them is that tabletop can be absolutely hilarious to play, because eventually the odds will give you ridiculous situations, and like you will create a master locksmith who's opened 1 million traps and doors across 12 continents, and then he needs to unlock his bike, and you roll 2 natural ones, and you fail, and that is hilarious, and that's a story for the ages. When you're playing a computer game on your own, and you need to open a door to get an item, and you've given yourself advantage, you've stacked up all the advantages, and you get double 1, that's not really funny, and I don't think it's fun. And it's also incredibly frustrating because, of course, like Baldur's Gate 3 loves to throw critical failures at you and say, oh, you've critically failed this skill roll, that's how it is in tabletop. It's like, well, I don't know what game of tabletop you're playing, because like read as written, you don't fail, you don't critically fail skill rolls. You critically miss in combat, but skill rolls you don't have critical failures or critical successes. So it's like, it's not only a bad gaming mechanic, it's wrong. It's just shoehorned in. So that cheeses me off. The other thing that brings it down a level for me, and I don't know how the rest of the world feels about this. I know the Baldur's Gate 3 subreddit really doesn't agree with me, but I don't fucking care. The music ranges from the okay to the just excruciatingly bad. Like some of the music, I mean, I oh god, like there's been some bad music. I mean, look at Final Fantasy X. That's got, you know, some of the boss music at the end for that. It leaves a lot to be desired. But it never occurred to me to turn it off. And I got into I'll just say it, I think we've all played it enough to be aware that this is a possibility. A fight with Raphael in Baldur's Gate 3. That might be the most cringeworthy music I've ever heard in my life. It just really, whenever there's vocals getting in, it's just like, do you know why we don't normally include vocals, or certainly audible vocals, in songs in video games? So that's really bad. And then the third thing, which is, to be fair, kind of true of Baldur's Gate 2 and Baldur's Gate 1, but I think it's worst in Baldur's Gate 3. It's just that level cap. The level cap comes flying in incredibly early, and the good items, after Raphael, really, for me, I had a quest log full of stuff still to do, which thematically I felt like I wanted my character to have done. But there's no more dings, there's no more there's no more endorphin hits there. Baldur's Gate 3 just kind of says, no, we want you to have a difficult fights in the end game. And it's yeah, not really. Why do you do that? I must admit, I didn't complete it. I've got however 100. It's a big game, 100 hours or whatever it is in it. Got to the end game. It did lots of the end game content, but yeah, I didn't finish it because that joyless end game. And I just don't think that Baldur's Gate 2 is as bad for any of these things. It feels, the other thing to talk about with Baldur's Gate 3, and again it comes to these dice rolls a lot. I talk a lot about the XCOM bullshitometer. The bullshitometer being how often and how loudly you find yourself screaming "that's bullshit" at a video game. And it comes from XCOM. You maneuver your troops up to shoot an enemy, and you take it to point blank range. It's got a 99% chance to hit, and then he shoots directly up in the air, misses the enemy, and your entire squad gets wiped. And you promptly cry, "that's bullshit," and some software engineer will somewhere be, "Oh, that's how statistics work." It's yeah, but that's not game design working in a way that we like. Having a bit of randomness is good, and you are allowed. I mean, we look at some of these games like Fallout, Final Fantasy VII, even to an extent. Those are games, Valkyria. Those are games that you can scream "that's bullshit" at, but not anywhere near as frequently as Baldur's Gate 3. And another game I'd like to shout out when we're talking about the bullshitometer is Darkest Dungeon, because Darkest Dungeon lives by its bullshit. Darkest Dungeon, bullshit is the thing that kills you. But the way it phrases it, the way it builds into that bullshit, it does so in such a way that you think, that it was overconfidence that slowly and insidiously killed you. Which I think, it's just such a difference. But Baldur's Gate 3 is the most bullshit game I've ever played. It's just constantly throwing bullshit at you. I don't think I've ever rage quit a game as much as that. So it's not going in S tier, it's not even going in A tier, it can go in B tier, because it is wonderful and it is a tremendous achievement. But it's definitely not perfect. Hopefully that, didn't cause anyone to have an aneurysm. Ooh! Legend of Heroes, Trails in the Sky. This was right on the threshold for, let's first try and find it, for inclusion here. Oh God, I really can't read this. I might end up just having to pick one, unless it's down here. Trails. Trails in the Sky. Yeah, this was on. Let's dump it there for now. This was. It was cut and go. Whether or not. Was that the expression? Suddenly had a thing, cut and go. It was a close run thing whether or not to include this. I have got, I don't know exactly on my Steam account. I'd be willing to bet that it's about 10-15 hours in Trails in the Sky. I occasionally pick it up. I start playing and I find it okay. It's I don't like every aspect of it. I really hate things where you have to rotate the damn camera to see hidden stuff. I just find that really disorientating. I don't like that aspect of it, I must admit, but that is kind of personal preference. Well, it's not kind of personal preference, entirely personal preference. But like, it's got some okay systems. It's got, sort of bargain bin characters. Maybe they get really, really good. I don't know, but like they were tropified to the point that I get up to playing, and yeah, it's just Trails in the Sky is okay. The problem with Trails in the Sky for me is that it's absolutely fine. I really, enjoy it until something more enjoyable comes along, and that something more enjoyable, some of these games that I've stopped playing, it's like, I had to go away on holiday, or like, I went and stayed at a friend's, or whatever. But like Trails in the Sky, it seems to be like, I was really enjoying it, and then I needed to, go and have tea. I went to the shop, so I stopped playing Trails in the Sky, and I just can't seem like to push through it. It doesn't like. Like I say, I don't know whether it's fair to include Trails in the Sky. I just can't seem to get any momentum in it, and yet it's not that I dislike it. It's just yeah. Maybe what I need to do with that is maybe at some point like watch somebody else's Let's Play, because one of the things that I think is really good about Let's Plays, maybe you feel this way about watching more than the ones I do. It's really good fun when you can see somebody else making tactical mistakes. It makes me want to go, I want to seize control of their mouse and tell them what to do, and that gets me invested. And that's got me invested into a lot of games. And then of course you come on, by the way, and you come and do it, and then you're making exactly the same mistakes they're making, as you'll have seen from all my playthroughs. But the sense is fun. So maybe that's what I need to do with Trails in the Sky. I am, because I feel like I haven't given it a fair enough shot, I'm going to leave it in D. It probably shouldn't be here at all, but I'm going to leave it in D. Icewind Dale 1. These are the Infinity Engine game sort of. Well, they use the Infinity Engine, and they these are like, it's basically Baldur's Gate 1, I would say. It's a slightly stripped back and darker version of that engine. The graphics are very, very similar, just new art assets drawn, new enemies, and they're just a simple dungeon crawl. Like, everything is a linear. There might be the occasional room off, but it is, to all intents and purposes, a linear corridor adventure. There's no talking your way through things. There's no like meaningful change on the quest. You create your own party, and you plow through this. It feels like an expansion to Baldur's Gate 1. The purpose of the Icewind Dale games was to basically get some quick revenue in after the, not exactly cash in on the Baldur's Gate games, but just these are not they're not games that are seeking to advance the genre. This is like a game funded by margins and designed so that some people will enjoy it. I thought when we were doing this, I thought that Icewind Dale was going to go into the C tier. I have completed it. I've completed both of them. But it might end up in the D tier. I just... they're entertaining enough. But everything that's good about them they take from Baldur's Gate. And they don't have anything like the personality of Baldur's Gate. There's a druid involved at the start who tells you to go, and it's all basically like forces are going to make the frozen north even frozener and colder. The story in Icewind Dale is like it's a really, really good example of like how not to tell a story in a video game inspired by D&D. It's got these D&D systems, and the D&D systems are good, and it goes up to, I want to say, to level 10, which allows some more interesting spells. That's more fun. Some of the monsters are quite fun to fight. It's just so cynical. Like, it really is. But I mean, it's enjoyable to play. But like, there's no design to it. Like, it's just like, you're just fighting one left. Like, you basically fight up a command chain, but you don't find it. Like, you fight up a command chain, but it is like it's like an organization hierarchy, and you never see more than the person above. So you just fight. You're like, oh, this guy's the big bad. You're like, okay, we killed him. It's like, oh, well, you have to kill his boss now, the real big bad. Oh, we'll kill him. It's like, okay, well, sure, I think that's bad. You want to see the hit their boss, and you just move up, and that's the plot. 2 seconds. Let's throw some illumination into the situation. So yeah, and it's also got this weird thing where, like, it's just, it feels, maybe it's the ice of Icewind Dale that's doing it, but it feels more grey. Some of these games, we talked about with Final Fantasy VIII, I'm going to say it again here, some games just have this washed out greyness, and what's about C, but I'm reserving the right to bring you down a peg, Icewind Dale. Hello. Oh, well, that's convenient, isn't it? Icewind Dale 2 uses D&D 3.5 rather than D&D. It's kind of like a third edition. Well, it's second meets third is what Baldur's Gate use, and therefore Icewind Dale 1. I'm just going to put them together. I mean, yeah. That's not. I don't mean to be lazy, but it's the same thing. You've got a slightly different engine, but it's got all the hallmarks of the first game. It's just a linear dungeon crawl with like no interest in the plot. I guess it's got some slightly more interesting dungeons in the second game, but slightly more interesting is not the same as interesting. Again, going back to the sort of the Baldur's Gate 3 aspect of this, like, I know I said that like tabletop needs to be expansive and like, or tabletop is by definition expansive, and like computer games are more about tighter experiences and like sort of more rigid challenges. But you can still, have some exploration or some sense of a growing world or of characters. There's a reason why not just Baldur's Gate 2 and 3 are above this, but also Knights of the Old Republic. It's just also D&D, albeit in a different setting. You can make more of it than that. Let's see what the timer is on this, by the way, because okay, a little bit of time. Persona 3, we have already had Persona 4 on there. How quickly can I locate this? How well do I know my alphabet? I'm gonna select this one. I don't think this is actually the exact Persona 3. I think that this is maybe a versioned one. But we're talking about Persona 3 as it was on the PlayStation 2. Iterative games. Why have I placed Persona 3 underneath Persona 4? Why is that a tier? I know that was like an easy choice for me. Why is it in that tier rating and not the one above? So Persona 3 does it does a lot of things well, but pretty much anything it does well, Persona 4 also does well. What Persona 3 lacks to me is firstly, it's not as stylish. Like, the fourth game for me is where they lean into the stylization of like the menus, the title cinematic, the music, the art more generally. It becomes more of a it's just more flamboyant, I suppose is the word, and that really gives it some life. Obviously, Persona 3 has been remade. My general position is and will remain to be against remakes, but I don't know if the remake changes or fixes many of those issues. My other problem with Persona... Oh yeah, just on that note as well, that Persona 4's dungeons have much more of a theme than the simple sort of tower block of Arctis, I think it is his name in Persona 3. Maybe I'm getting confused, but it's like they are they're thematic to the thing that they're about. Whereas in Persona 3, they're just kind of levels with like a different, very light wallpaper on it. The other thing with Persona 3, I felt that the main quest was still throwing characters at me when when it needed to sort of tie up its ends. I didn't really. Some of the later people who appear, I'm not really sure earn their keep. But most of all, it just, at least the PlayStation 2 one, it had a noticeable lack of polish. Like you've got when you sat around your dormitory, wherever it is, your house where you live, and you're chatting with your fellow students, all of whose names escape me because for whatever reason, despite being able to speak a little bit of Japanese, I massively struggle to remember Japanese names. I don't know where that comes from, but like that, something about like the iambic pentameter of the names just defeats me. Yeah, that looks nice, and then you'll get a cutscene, and it's like, oh, that's not good. Like they needed whoever was that they hired, whatever animation house to do those cutscenes. They needed to throw an extra week at those. It just, and like I'm not one for graphics, but you have to make sure that your graphics and your art direction are on the same page. When you're creating a game, you know your limitations. On that same line, I go back to Darkest Dungeon. Like, Darkest Dungeon, again, doing a lot with relatively, I'd say relatively little. Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh on the artists from Darkest Dungeon. There's a lot of gorgeous hand-drawn art. But the way it's, that they really have made the best of what was there, and from like an animation point of view. Whereas I think Persona 3, it a lot of those cutscenes, they'd have just been better off not having the cutscene. That better off exploring it in an in-game avatar kind of way. So yeah, but there was Persona 3. The original Wasteland. The original Wasteland, like I say, this is the oldest game on this list, and like if you ever play it, you'll be like, whoa, okay, this is. Well, maybe you won't. Maybe you would play it and be like, all right, Grandpa, this is the same to me as like Witcher 2. But this is like a 1980s game that inspires Fallout to an extent. We've got the sequel up there. Again, sequel. We've got the second game in the franchise up there. I don't know how much it's got in common with the first. Wasteland is I played it, and I immediately got a massive sense of this must have been brilliant at the time. Like, it's so expansive. You've got this really cool world map. You've got all these locations. You've got loads of stuff and options of what to do in the locations. You've got this party of, I think, 6 that like you can like equip and like get, managing their sort of weapons and ammo and things is really good. It's not necessarily tactical, it's more strategic. Like once you start, it's kind of more like a, do you want to attack, do you want to defend kind of thing, as I recall, rather than sort of positioning troops a la the second one or third. And yeah, and it's really good. No, I'm going to put Wasteland higher. I've talked myself into this. Wasteland is really good. I'm even considering it, popping it all the way up to B. The problem with Wasteland I'm going to put it in B. The problem with Wasteland is not Wasteland itself, it's me. And this is where we sort of come to look at all this, and like the theme that maybe you've been screaming at the screen this all this time, but I think it should be made like abundantly clear and explicit, just in case anyone's not picking up this. There's a theme towards the release dates of many of the games on this list. There's like a specific period that is getting like much higher representation than others, and it's because it starts with the era when I started playing video games, I guess, or started playing RPGs, it's perhaps fairer to say. And I happened to start that in what is generally known as the Silver Age of computer role-playing games. That's not just me, and that, if you look at the franchise success of Baldur's Gate, of Final Fantasy, of Fallout, it was a very well-respected period. But when I'm looking through this, and when I'm trying to take lessons from this, I need to bear in mind that it says something about me as much as it says something about these games. And Wasteland is something that throws that into sharp relief, because getting into playing Wasteland, wonderful as it is, was hard for me. Like, for example, if you're playing Fallout and you play Fallout, it drops you down in the Wasteland, there's no tutorial. And how many games would you play now? How many of the games there from the last 10 years don't tutorialize their gameplay? It's just not so. You don't look to the manual anymore. And in Wasteland, when I went back and played that, it's like what you didn't have as a tutorial, Wasteland doesn't have as like an intuitive UI. Not like Fallout does. Like Fallout's just got such a self-contained, fairly obvious UI, where like clicking on nothing will get you into trouble, and everything's clear and light. Meanwhile, Wasteland still uses a parser. I mean, I suppose that there is still a parser in Fallout, but it's not necessary. Yeah, it was tough going back, but it's the scale and scope of it, and what it does with the world map, its areas. I don't like anything that uses a parser, but again, that's maybe a me thing. If you get a chance to, if you can, probably on GOG, see if you can play the original Wasteland. It's an experience. I think another thing, the reason why like Fallout is so good is Fallout's just got that marvelously visceral like sound and visual, which Wasteland doesn't have. But it was of a different time, you know. I mean, if we're going to talk about other games than this, yeah, I think it has to stay B. I didn't complete it. The final of our Persona games. Persona 5. Persona 5 has got the best dungeons of... Oh, find it. Is that Strikers or is that... I think that's just normal Persona 5, isn't it? Persona 5 has got the best dungeons of the Persona games. They've got more going on. They're also stylish. They've got some, you know, it's not Breath of the Wild, but there's some puzzles in there. It's got big characters. It's got a gorgeous little world to move in. The UI is even more stylized than Persona 4. Yeah, some of the way that the combat works is better and more interesting. Persona 5 has the most excruciating pacing of possibly any game I've ever played. And it's like, I just, like Persona 3 and Persona 4, like I feel like they're like 40-hour games and they get it. They're like, yeah, we're this long, you know, like rattle through us, and then if you want to do everything, you know, maybe you can have like an 80-hour playthrough. And like, I think I've got 140 hours in Persona 5 and I didn't finish it. And it's just like, it has no business being as long as it does. A friend from work, she said of it, like, I'm not going to play a game that doesn't respect me enough to hire an editor. And I just thought it was a perfect way of putting it. That like, dialogue is just mentioned incessantly rammed home. I mean, even Persona 4 does it a bit, but like Persona 5, just get on with it. Just not epic, just slow and sluggish, and like, you know, the combat in these games, like it's not complex. Like it's not. These are very simple games. I mean, if you're playing something like, I'm trying to look and see what's on the list that would immediately spring to mind. I mean, it'd be tempting to say like Baldur's Gate 2 has got like a much more complexity to its combat, but even Baldur's Gate 2 is like, we're talking like a quarter of the length of Persona 5. Just bloated. And I actually don't think, I mean, I know a lot of people really like the music, and the music is good, don't get me wrong, it's fine. I don't think it's Persona 4's music. I still think that's got the best there. And then also as well, like, maybe we'll do a separate video to discuss this. What's going on with Anne? Like, Anne as a character, I just, it makes me very uncomfortable. I'm really not sure what Persona's trying to say with that. I think probably easiest to move on. Not long now. How many? Maybe we'll take a break after this one. Whoa! What a one to take a break on. It's one of the few ones where that feels like it actually deserves the clap. Not as in like a sexually transmitted infection. Well, maybe it deserves that too, you know. at least access to it. Chrono Trigger, how much do I love you? Let me put you here and think about it. Chrono Trigger for the SNES. Two fantastic JRPGs for the SNES in the same category. These JRPGs are faster paced, both of them. They are multiple character driven with multiple different things going on. Chrono Trigger lends itself more to combinations, whereas Final Fantasy VI is more about actually different styles of inputting attacks by person. Chrono Trigger, it's got a really good soundtrack. It's fast paced and rather than being sort of in depth, it's just sort of like stylized more. I'm looking at them now. I mean, Chrono Trigger is an all-timer. I mean, really, like, I don't know. I mean, like, S and A here, like, there's a lot of people who'd argue that there's quite a few all-timers in the B tier. I don't think it's an all-timer like Final Fantasy VII or Baldur's Gate 2 is. I'm not sure, now I look at it, if you're asking me which one I enjoyed more, Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy VI, that's a tough call. It might be Final Fantasy VI. Chrono Trigger's a really good game, and it's one of these games that like it holds up because it's sort of, it's like it exists within its like pixel art like SNES era paradigm that like I just think holds up. Again, I've put at least one viewer onto Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger, another one like Final Fantasy VI, where they have shoehorned in full motion video sequences that are kind of in what I would call a Dragon Ball Z style, and I don't know why they did that. You know, it's not part of the original. Like, just what are you gaining by that? Just focus on the original. But anyway, yeah, brilliant game. We have got enough left that I'm going to split this, and we'll do this in an immediate afterwards, but just for video purposes, a 3-parter. So I will see you later for part 3.